Foreign policy provided some of Margaret Thatcher's greatest successes, and in the shape of Europe, it helped bring about her downfall. When she first came to power, though, her lack of any real foreign experience was her greatest weakness. The junta in Argentina made the disastrous miscalculation of assuming that a woman prime minister wouldn't resist if they invaded the Falklands. Against the better judgment of some of her ministers and a few military advisers, that's what she did. Victory in the South Atlantic changed everything. Before the Falklands, her first foreign policy advisor used to give her tutorials at lunchtime once a week while she cooked him an omelette. After the Falklands, he got a knighthood, but he never saw her again. She didn't need him anymore. Not everything post-Falklands was a victory. She failed disastrously in Beijing when she tried to persuade the Chinese leader Deng Xiaoping to give Britain another 50-year lease on Hong Kong. But by sheer force of personality and her close friendship with President Reagan, she gave the world the impression that Britain was an equal partner with America. Their relationship set the pattern for later prime ministers, especially Tony Blair, though when she was in charge, no one ever suggested that Britain was America's poodle.
You can't help but notice the respect when she addresses a subject, when she speaks. She is, you might say, we wait to hear from her.
Cleverly, her officials spotted the up-and-coming Mikhail Gorbachev in the Soviet Union and invited him to London before he took power. "I like Mr. Gorbachev," she told me in an interview. "I can do business with him." And she did.
Margaret was a very active partner. She was a woman of conviction, devoted to her ideological vision, and she didn't hide her views. She was always arguing for them. She thought her experience in politics might help us.
There were still plenty of miscalculations. Her instinctive support for white South Africa brought division at home and sometimes put her in a minority of one in the Commonwealth.
If it's 1 against 48, I'm very sorry for the 48.
Even so, she always made it clear that apartheid was morally wrong, even though she openly regarded Nelson Mandela, before his release from jail, as a terrorist. When the relatively moderate F.W. de Klerk came to power, she became his big supporter. She'd never felt comfortable in Europe and saw Chancellor Helmut Kohl as a competitor rather than a partner. When their officials staged a tank firing competition, both sides won, of course, there was a distinct edge to it. She failed utterly when she tried to persuade him that East and West Germany shouldn't be reunified. As for President Mitterrand of France, she instinctively disliked him, even though she acknowledged his secret help in the Falklands War. At European summits, she browbeat the other leaders and took pride in her reputation of never giving an inch.
Only a Frenchman could have done that. It's absolute, unbelievable.
And so what would normally be just a run-of-the-mill type of political meeting has taken on a particular significance.
Compromise, the basic principle of the European Union, was never really in her vocabulary. Finally, when some of her former ministers rebelled against her domineering, it was the issue of Europe which finally finished her. Margaret Thatcher thrived on conflict and grew strong on it, but in the end it brought her down. John Simpson, BBC News.